You're going to be really glad that you are not this guy.
Moose getting involved.
This wrestler's chest was so sweaty that his opponent's hand slipped and accidentally hit him in the throat, leaving the wrestler unable to breathe, forcing him to leave the ring without selling the move, though thankfully he was okay and later continued the match. But the next wrestler wasn't as fortunate. The main event of the February 6, 2012 episode of Raw was a six-pack challenge featuring participants such as The Miz and R-Truth. And during the match, Truth missed a move to the outside before attempting a springboard splash, but The Miz failed to catch him, causing the future 24/7 champion to land hard on his back, leaving him struggling to move and unable to continue, though he thankfully recovered later. Yet the next move discussed was far more dangerous and even banned in WWE, AJ Styles' Styles Clash, a finisher responsible for several neck injuries. Due to the unique requirement that the opponent must lean their head back instead of tucking their chin, and if performed incorrectly, it could lead to severe neck damage. One such case was British wrestler Lionheart, who suffered a broken neck from the move, with doctors initially warning he might never walk again, forcing him out of action for a year. But even simple moves can sometimes be just as dangerous, as shown in a 2 out of 3 falls match for the Women's Championship, where challenger Candice Michelle was climbing the ring post before champion Beth Phoenix countered by throwing her body into the top rope, sending Candice crashing awkwardly to the mat. And it was immediately clear she was badly hurt, so Phoenix quickly pinned her to end the match, and later at the hospital, it was revealed that Michelle had suffered a cracked clavicle, though she recovered and returned to action in just 14 weeks. But in another shocking example of how unpredictable wrestling can be, one man came only inches away from being paralyzed for the rest of his life.
And to this day, I still have double vision. So I can look straight and I'm fine, but to look kind of like at my peripheral vision, everything becomes opaque.
Chair shots to the head are banned in most major wrestling companies, and for very good reason. During his run in Impact Wrestling, Jeff Hardy had recently turned heel, and in one episode he ran into the ring and struck Mr. Anderson in the back of the head with a steel chair, a moment that was difficult to watch and became even more disturbing when the chair shot caused Anderson to bleed badly, leaving a nasty and uncomfortable scene that even seemed to make Jeff Hardy realize he had gone too far. But unfortunately for Anderson, this wasn't the first time he had suffered such an incident, as back at Survivor Series 2006, he faced The Undertaker in a First Blood match, managed to score the victory, yet immediately afterward the dead man took his revenge, showing that in wrestling, brutal moments like these often leave lasting consequences. Even fans had to look away because that chair shot was so brutal. And in 2010, The Undertaker faced Rey Mysterio in the main event of SmackDown, where in the final moments, Mysterio went for his signature seated senton from the top rope, but accidentally came down on Undertaker's face. A botched move that left the dead man with a concussion, a broken nose, and a fractured orbital bone, forcing him out of action for 3 months, while also causing permanent damage to his vision.
Oh no, a second pedigree on the thumbtacks!
Titus O'Neil's slip at the Greatest Royal Rumble is remembered as one of the funniest moments in WWE history, but while fans laughed at the scene, the reality was that Titus was just inches away from disaster, as his head nearly collided with the metal beam supporting the ring. And to understand how dangerous that could have been, we don't even need to imagine, because something similar once happened in New Japan Pro Wrestling when Yoshihashi sprinted toward the ring, tripped, and smashed his head into the middle part of the apron, leaving him bloodied and clearly shaken. And while he continued the match, the damage sidelined him for several months. Accidents like that can be unavoidable, yet other times injuries happen because of carelessness, such as during an episode of WCW Nitro when the NWO assaulted Macho Man Randy Savage, dragging him to the ring, and with Big Show tasked with carrying him, the Giant slipped on the steps, sending Savage crashing dangerously close to the ring post, an impact that could have been catastrophic, though fortunately Randy escaped with only pain and no serious injury, though Big Show likely got heat backstage. And while some moments are accidents, others just seem reckless. Like in an independent event featuring Warhorse and Gary J in a last man standing match, where the brutal brawl saw Gary J shove part of a turnbuckle into Warhorse's mouth, before tossing him out of the ring, the hook tearing violently from his mouth and creating a pool of blood, leaving him scarred and disfigured, even though he somehow finished the match. And speaking of dangerous spots, it's a miracle Montez Ford can still walk after a WrestleMania moment where Seth Rollins was supposed to trip him before he could vault over the top rope, but Rollins mistimed the spot, and Ford followed through, landing in a way that easily could have caused a severe back injury, yet thankfully he was fine and only out for a short time. Unlike Henry Godwinn, whose career was cut short after suffering the devastating effects of the Road Warrior's infamous Doomsday device in 1997, when a botched landing fractured his C7 vertebra, forcing him out for 2 months, though doctors urged him to take longer, advice he ignored, only to re-injure the same vertebra a year later, this time more severely, ending his career. While most wrestling finishers put the person taking the move in danger, Nikki Bella's rack attack ironically put herself at risk as the repeated pressure of dropping to her knees with opponents on her shoulders slowly damaged her neck until she began experiencing numbness and immobility in her legs, leading to a medical examination that revealed her vertebrae were shattered and pressing against her spinal cord, leaving her one bad bump away from paralysis, though surgery thankfully repaired the damage and allowed her to return. Yet later, she nearly faced another devastating accident when teaming with Rhea Ripley as Nikki A.S.H., when Charlotte Flair launched herself from the top rope with a corkscrew moonsault that sent Nikki's head smashing into the barricade, a brutal impact that visibly took a toll but didn't stop her from finishing the match. And while Nikki endured dangerous situations, even legendary finishers had to be altered for safety, such as Triple H's original version of the pedigree, where he would keep his opponent's arms fully hooked, preventing them from protecting their face on the way down. A design so hazardous it created terrifying moments like when the game drove Mick Foley headfirst into a pile of thumbtacks, proving that not all iconic moves survive unchanged when the risks outweigh the spectacle. While Foley managed to walk away, not every wrestler has been so fortunate. During one match, Triple H faced enhancement talent Marty Garner, who was unfamiliar with Triple H's finisher and ended up taking the move incorrectly, causing him to land on his head and suffer a neck injury, though thankfully it wasn't life-altering and Garner was eventually able to continue his wrestling career. But when it comes to dangerous finishers, few were as violent as Randy Orton's punt kick, a move so brutal that WWE eventually placed a permanent ban on it, and to discover the full story behind why it was outlawed, be sure to watch the video on screen.